first spoke, I had asked you if you recalled in that recorded conversation you first had with Detective Parall, whether you had, after informing Detective Parall that Monica, from your perspective, was a loving wife, whether Detective Parall then shared with you his very strong opinions about the case, that he couldn't share evidence with you, any evidence with you, but that he wanted you to know there was no doubt in his mind that Monica knew what was going on. And you said, I think in response, I don't recall that, and I asked you if looking at the transcript would refresh your recollection. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Showing you page 7 and 8 from your June 20 recorded conversation with Detective Parall. Could you read that and see if it refreshes your recollection, starting at this looks like 31? On to the next page.
May I, Your Honor?
Chance to read that?
Yes.
Okay. And am I correct? Am I correct that you tell Detective Parall that
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I know you want us to wait, but no foundation.
I don't know.
If it's for refreshing recollection,
did that refresh your
she doesn't get
recollection?
to tell her what it says.
I understand.
Did that refresh your recollection looking at that from the transcript?
It was just one line. You told me to read line 31, right?
No. Starting at line 31, I said, and to the next page.
How much of next page?
The first two paragraphs.
Okay. Sorry. Yes, it sounds familiar.
So that refreshes your recollection as to what you said and what Detective Parall said, correct?
That one line in the next page?
Yes, the next paragraph in the next page.
Yes.
And you told Detective Parall that Monica was a loving wife, correct?
All of us.
At one point I did, yes.
And he told you very specifically, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that she knew what was going on, that she participated in this. He told you that, correct?
Yes.
And that, of course, had an impact on you, did it?
Yes.
Ms. Sementilli, you testified earlier to the prosecution counsel's questions. You said something about Monica not asking you not to call the police. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Well, when she talked to you about that, she made clear to you that was because Detective Parall had asked her not to have family members calling and leaving messages. Is that true?
I don't know about that.
You don't recall that?
That Parshall told her that? No, I don't know that.
No, that she told you that.
No, she didn't tell it me like that.
And am I correct that when you had this conversation, it was May of 2017?
I don't remember the date.
Okay. Would it be fair to say sometime after Easter?
Again, I don't remember the date.
Okay.
It might have been even earlier than that because we all wanted answers.
Okay. But you had never once tried to call Detective Parshall before that conversation, correct?
I was reprimanded that my son did.
Okay. But before the conversation where you say you were reprimanded because your son did, you had never, since the date that Fabio had been killed, tried to call law enforcement, specifically the LAPD, correct?
No, no.
Okay. Ms. Sementilli, you shared with us a specific event before Fabio was killed, a story you told us about January 17 coming down to Los Angeles for a business trip, which was the last time you saw Fabio. Do you recall that?
Correct, yes.
And you went into quite a bit of detail about that experience for you was something unusual that occurred with Fabio and Monica the last time you saw them, before Fabio was killed.
Correct.
You testified that you were bringing this hairdresser, Anthony Quinteri, who had worked with you and Fabio for a very short time, I think you said?
Correct.
And that the two of you had a business proposal. We wanted to run something by him, correct?
Yes.
And that you told us that right before you all were supposed to get there, Fabio had called you and tried to cancel.
Yes.
And he told you it was not a good day.
Yes.
And you told him you were on your way and you were coming anyway.
Yes.
Okay. And then you said when you got there, things were unusual, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you said they were unusual for two different reasons, correct? You said, the first thing you said was that there was no dinner ever served by Monica.
No, I didn't say that. So there was no welcome, no spread. She eventually did throw something together, but that's not the usual self, the usual welcome that I usually get. That's what I meant.
So when you testified, there was no dinner served.
No, there was no spread. There wasn't your usual welcome.
Okay, so there was dinner served.
At some point, she did get some food ready, but it's not the usual.
Okay. But it would be defined as dinner.
It was food, dinner time.
Okay. And you said, so what was unusual on that first reason was she served dinner, but it wasn't the usual production or spread, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you said there was a second reason, correct?
Sorry, what reason, in what respect? Sorry, the second reason
Well, you described for everyone
why she was different or why it was different? I'm not
why
sure.
it was different. Yes, you said this was a particularly unusual occurrence that you were sharing with us.
Yes.
And this was the last time you saw Fabio, and it was unusual, and you described two different things. You described no dinner, and you described that Fabio was not his normal gregarious self. He was working with his golf clubs and was not as welcoming as normal.
Correct. Those are the two reasons that was different that night.
Those were the two reasons.
But you
Correct.
said no dinner.
Well, that was one of the things you
I
described.
said there was no spread, there was no welcome, my brother was different, yes. But I didn't go into eventually. We stayed a little longer because I thought we were going to go to a restaurant, but then she made pasta with butter and garlic. That's not an Italian meal, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not a spread. And it's not called dinner, because usually dinner is a little bit more rounded.
Ms. Sementilli, when you testified before this jury last Friday, you said you were served no food.
No, there was no spread.
And then the second reason that you're describing, you said that Fabio was not his normal welcoming self,
Yes,
not as gregarious, not his normal gregarious self.
Objection, Your Honor.
And that,
Cumulative.
and that that made you concerned.
yes,
Okay. And did you ask him about it?
no, I did not.
Okay. And am I correct when you said, Ms. Sementilli, that Antonio Quinteri is who you brought to Fabio's home? Antonio Quinteri, I think you described, had only worked for a short time for you and Fabio?
Four years, 3.5 to 4 years.
Okay. Is it correct, Mrs. Sementilli, that you were aware when you brought Anthony Quinteri to the Sementilli home that your brother Fabio disliked Anthony Quinteri for a very specific reason?
Not at that time,
You weren't aware of that?
no.
So you weren't aware that when Anthony Quinteri worked for you and Fabio, when he left, he took a number of your salon's clients, which upset Fabio greatly?
Yes, but that had passed because Fabio was vice president of P&G here in LA, and Antonio was an account holder. And in fact, a few times I asked Fabio how he's getting along with Antonio, and he says, Morella, let that just be behind us now. And so there was no disgruntled anymore. It was fine. Our relationship was fine with Antonio.
And that was the incident that you said was unusual that you saw with Fabio and Monica prior to his death, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm not sure what incident you're talking about.
This unusual occurrence you say happened at Fabio and Monica's home.
Unusual. Is this including Antonio Quinteri? I'm not sure.
Yes,
No.
you used the word unusual.
My brother was unusual. It wasn't his normal self.
Okay. Ms. Sementilli, you testified about flying into LA after you learned that Fabio had been killed, correct?
Yes,
And Fabio was killed on the 23rd of Monday, and you flew in that Wednesday, the 25th, correct?
correct.
And you said that you flew into town and went straight to the house, correct?
Correct.
And you were aware that Fabio had been killed at the house, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you said to us that you were very, very concerned about the safety of Monica and the girls being at the house. Is that true?
Yes.
And when you flew in to LA, you went straight to the house, and in fact, you stayed at the house for the next 6-7 days, correct?
No, I didn't stay there.
You didn't sleep in Monica's room?
No.
You didn't tell the police back in March of 2021 that for your entire stay, you remained at the house and slept in Monica's room?
No, I stayed with Monica after, when I went back, when it was just me going back and forth.
Well, you told the police, did you not, that at the wake, at the viewing after you organized a viewing at the funeral home, and then you were there receiving about 80 people at the house? Do you
Yes.
recall that?
Yes.
And you told the police that you had stayed with Monica, that entire stay, you stayed in her bedroom.
I
You
I heard a comment. I didn't hear a question.
understood. You stayed in Monica's bedroom that week, correct?
didn't stay the entire stay. I might have stayed one night, but I went into the bedroom to get a cell phone charger. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, you referenced to the detective, you told the detective that you stayed your entire stay at Monica's home.
I don't recall. We were at a hotel, so I might have confused which stay specifically. I was with Monica in her room after the murder.
Okay. So there was another stay where you came to the house and stayed in Monica's room?
Many times, yes.
Many times?
Yes.
And when was the next time?
I went back, I believe it was in end of February, then again in I think in March, and again in May, a few times after that.
Okay. And those times you stayed at the house, but not
believe
this
so.
time?
No, we were in a hotel with my mom and my sister, I'm pretty sure. So I might have.
Ms. Sementilli, isn't it true that during your trip to California for the January 29th event, from the time you got here until the time you left back to Toronto, you slept at the Sementilli home?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And you said you don't recall that, or you definitely recall not sleeping there?
I definitely recall not sleeping there because Wella had put us up in a hotel, and I remember my sister, my mom, and I consoling each other in a hotel room.
So if you told Detective Roberts, quote, during the trip to California for the January 29th wake, you slept in Monica's room the entire stay, that would have been untrue.
I did not stay with Monica during that stay.
So that statement to the detective would have been untrue?
That would be untrue or misunderstood. I didn't get my dates right.
Okay. When you were at the home, when you first came, you described a number of family members being at the home, correct?
Correct.
And there were you there during the day that week you flew in on Wednesday?
Yes,
Okay. Were you there every day?
most of the days.
Okay. At the home
Yes,
where Fabio had been killed?
yes.
Okay. And you never left the house because you felt unsafe. Is that fair to say?
No, there was 20 people at one time. No, I didn't.
Okay. And you never directed or arranged for your nieces or Monica to stay somewhere else, correct?
No, it wasn't something that I thought of.
Okay. You clearly understood at that time from, did you watch news reports of the events with Fabio?
I don't think I did understand either.
Were you watching the news about any reporting about Fabio's death?
Here in LA, we don't get the news in Canada. But
Here in
when I was
LA.
here, I came to the pre-trials, and sometimes I would watch the news.
Okay, I apologize for not being clear. I mean that first week after he was killed, when you were at the Sementilli home with 20 people.
Yes, we did watch the news at the house.
Okay. And you were talking to Monica, correct?
I don't recall.
You don't recall talking to Monica while you were here?
In specifically for what was I talking to her about?
About this horrible killing of your brother.
Yes, of
Okay.
course, yes.
Okay. And your understanding, am I correct, was that the operating theory, the police at that time believed this was some kind of burglary gone wrong?
Objection calls for speculation. Also hearsay.
This witness's understanding, it's overruled.
Yes,
That was your understanding.
yes,
And you also understood that the police had reassured Monica and the girls that burglars usually don't come back.
And calls for speculation.
That does.
Thank you, Your Honor. Prosecution counsel asked you last Friday, Ms. Sementilli, did Monica ever say anything to you about whether or not she wanted to move and get out of that house? And you answered no in your testimony. Is that correct?
What was the answer in reference to?
Her question, the prosecutor's question, did Monica say anything to you about whether or not she wanted to move and get out of that house? And you answered no. Was that your testimony?
Yes,
She never said anything about moving.
eventually she did, yes.
Okay, so eventually she did, but you were wondering, when the prosecutor asked you this question, you were speaking about what time period?
The beginning.
The beginning. So at some point, Monica did tell you that she wanted to move and sell the house, correct?
She did, yes.
And in fact, you went and looked at a number of homes with Monica, correct?
Correct.
And they weren't all listed at $800,000, correct?
I only went to see one home.
Okay, but you looked around for Monica and knew she had a real estate agent?
No, I didn't do any of that.
You didn't? You
No.
didn't contact Monica by text and tell her that she should look for a house in a particular neighborhood near Pierce College?
I don't recall doing that.
Okay. And you didn't actually meet her to look at other houses other than this one you say?
Nope, just the one.
Okay. And you, in fact, were aware, were you not, that Monica was using the same real estate agent to sell her house that she was going to be using to get a new house. Is that correct?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
You didn't have any discussions with
No,
Monica about
no.
that? After Fabio was killed, Ms. Sementilli, would it be fair to say that you played a very active role in wanting to honor your brother?
Yes,
And in fact, you spent a great deal of time and effort in putting together these plaqued photographs. You were getting a series of plaqued photographs to use in tribute to him. Is that correct?
Yes,
You actually sent Monica a couple of posters that you had made of Fabio, blown up photographs of Fabio for her to be able to use as part of tributes to him, correct?
yes,
And you actually worked very hard that Sunday after you arrived to put on this viewing and at the funeral home, and then organize the reception back at the house, correct?
that wasn't me.
You didn't communicate with Wella about that?
No,
Okay. Who did you see communicating with Wella about that?
It's his name.
I don't recall.
Do you know,
There's nothing to strike.
do you know, Ms. Sementilli, how that event was organized?
No,
Did you attend that event?
yes,
And I think you described earlier that there were about 80 people there,
yes,
and most of the people there were gathered outside by the pool,
correct.
and there was food set up outside,
Yes,
and were people gathered around where Fabio had been killed?
yes,
There were tables and chairs set up out there, correct?
correct, yes,
And you described for us being out there, and at some point during that memorial, that gathering, you met someone who was introduced to you as Robert Baker. Is that correct?
correct,
And it was Monica who introduced you, correct?
yes,
And you had first seen them outside with a number of people gathered outside, correct?
I had seen them together, sitting
Okay.
down, looking at each other.
And then you, accompanied with Deborah Obad, you walked inside with Robert Baker and Monica, correct?
Correct.
And then you had not been introduced to him yet,
No,
correct?
no,
And then the four of you went into their living room, correct?
correct,
And you said Robert Baker sat down on an ottoman, and you sat down right beside Monica on the couch, correct?
correct,
And that's the point at which you were introduced to Robert Baker.
yes,
And you testified that you, at some point, whispered into Monica's ear that people are watching, and what did you whisper?
who is this guy? People are watching, and he probably should go.
You said that as well.
Well,
What did you say in Italian? You said it was in Italian?
yes, I said in Italian.
What did you say in Italian?
Who is this guy? Oh, sorry.
You want the English translation, I take it? Because we are not going to hear the Italian words. I'm
English
correct in that,
translation.
yes?
English translation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I said, who is this guy? Everybody is watching. It's probably best he go, in Italian.
And then Monica said to him, you should probably go.
She introduced me to him,
Uh-huh.
and then after he gave me condolences, and then over to Deborah, and then back to Monica, and she said, it's probably better you go.
And then he left.
And then he got up.
Okay. And when he left, you saw Monica's mother at some point say something to him as he was leaving.
Correct.
And did he respond at all?
No.
Okay. And your understanding about her saying that when you spoke to Deborah Obad was that his mom was worried that men like Baker would prey on Monica. Is that right?
Hearsay?
Overruled.
I didn't overhear any of that.
Deborah Obad never had a conversation with you about why Mena, Monica's mom, said that to Baker?
Objection, Your Honor, double hearsay.
A moment. Let's sustain that.
You didn't have any understanding about why Mena said that to Robert Baker, correct?
Correct.
And you never asked anybody about it?
No.
You just didn't think anything of it?
Well, I did. I says, what's going on? And then she wasn't talking to me. She was not saying anything after that.
Ms. Sementilli, you described for the prosecutor being in Monica's closet at one point with your sons and Monica and Luigi. Do you recall that?
I wasn't in the closet with my sons and my nephews. No.
You were not there?
No. I was in the closet with my mom and my sister.
Okay.
I'm not sure what you're referencing, the clothing?
Well, yes, you testified that there was some incident where you said Monica was giving away Fabio's things, right?
Yes, she was.
But as you testified, Luigi had requested a few of Fabio's things. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
And was that at the same time period where you were in the closet with Monica?
No,
You were never in the closet with Luigi.
not at that time, no.
But you were in the closet when a watch was located that you asked Monica if it would be okay to give to the firstborn, which was your son Anthony, correct?
My nephew, Anthony.
Your nephew Anthony,
Yes.
correct?
She gave it to my nephew, Anthony. I don't recall conversation about it.
Well, you specifically asked Monica if Anthony, because he was the firstborn, could have the watch, correct?
I don't recall that.
Okay, but you recall Anthony getting the watch?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Sementilli, you described in your testimony earlier that one of Monica's neighbors brought over at some point the surveillance footage that had been located at the neighbor's house. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you testified that Monica, when she returned home from the police impound, was upset because she had not seen the video. Is that right?
She was upset that we saw the video.
Before she saw it?
Yes.
Okay. But were you aware at that time that it was Monica who had first told the police the night Fabio was killed that they might find video like that at this neighbor's home?
Objection assumes facts, not an evidence, and
Sustained.
then calls for speculation.
Were you aware, did you have an understanding that it was Monica who informed the police that they might find this video at the neighbors who brought it?
Same objection.
Sustain.
Ms. Sementilli, you claimed when the prosecutor was asking you about the conversations you had with Monica after Fabio was killed, that your communications with Monica were almost all about life insurance. Do you recall that?
Almost all about life insurance. A majority of them, yes.
Okay. And you were, during this entire period, texting frequently with Monica, correct?
Yes.
And if I told you that the prosecution had gathered over 500 communications between you and Monica between the time Fabio was killed and when Monica was arrested, would that sound about right?
500, I don't know.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to review those communications?
Yes.
And while we're gathering those, am I correct that there wasn't a single communication between you and Ms. Sementilli in those communications?
Go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah.
The reviewing is going to be done after court. We're not going to sit here while counsel and the witness confer on 500 communications. You
That's
can,
fine.
okay, so you can ask your question without showing her the matter right now.
Okay. Am I correct that there's not a single time in however many communications there were between you and Monica after Fabio died and before she was arrested, there's not one text where Monica ever complains to you or makes any reference to life insurance?
What's your question? I'm sorry, it was all broken up. What was the question again?
Is it true that in all of the communications you had with Monica between the time Fabio died and when she was arrested, she never complained once or even referenced life insurance to you in these communications?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Let me take our adjournment this time. Counsel, you can meet with the witness after court hours. Excuse me, so I can talk to the jury. Excuse me a second. We're going to be in adjournment until tomorrow at 9 a.m. The admission advisor will discuss this case among yourself or if anyone else or the court expressing opinions of the cause finding